Well, thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful session today, where we discuss about post-MBA careers and the most sought-after field of consulting. It is a privilege and an honor to welcome Gaurav Bosle. He's one of the most sought-after consulting career coaches globally. He has placed 750 plus people in MBB, which is McKinsey Bain and BCG for short. For those of you just embarking on your way towards consulting, and another 1,000 plus in all the other tier two consulting companies, with an amazing success rate of around 90%. He is also an ICF certified PCC, which is one of the best accreditations for a coach today. And also, having been an ex-consultant with McKinsey, he is going to give you information which is from both from the ground level as well as like from what he has learned from everyone else. And most importantly, he also runs and mentors a boutique recruitment company. So without further ado, I would love to invite Gaurav to take this further and throw some more light on the lovely field of consulting. Over to you, Gaurav.
Thanks, Kritika. Thanks for having me, and thanks everyone for showing up. I think next 1 hour is going to be pretty interesting. I wish if we could have had this kind of session 15 years back, Kritika, because I was in almost same shoes, trying to get into MBA, international MBA, plus contemplating whether consulting is for me or not, with a very high level information on what consulting is. So really happy to shed some light in terms of what consulting is, what's the career all about, what should be doing to break into consulting, and also kind of answering all the questions that you have. So I have a presentation that I have created so that our discussion is anchored. Uh, just a minute. Are you able to see the presentation?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Great. So I'll run through the presentation as we discussed in a few points. In case there is a pressing question because of which the understanding is getting hampered, please ask the question. No problem at all. I don't get disturbed by that. In case the question can wait, don't forget we have a ample amount of time at the end for the Q&A. Okay, but a little bit of interaction is okay with me. Yeah. So with that, let me quickly run you through the agenda. Right. So I'll start off with what management consulting is in terms of the industry, the career, what exactly consultants do and what they don't, etc. Then we will talk about why management consulting is the most sought after career after MBA. What does it actually give you? What can you get out of it? Thirdly, we talk about what does it take to break into top consulting firm. We all know it's not easy. It has a selection rate of less than 1%. But what exactly you can do to ensure that you are best placed to be in that top 1%? And of course, the fourth part is the Q&A, where I'm happy to take the direct questions from you. Okay. So with that, let's get into the discussion. Very quick introduction. So thanks, Kritika. Already she has introduced me. But yeah, let me very quickly tell you my journey, guys. So I was, again, as I said, in a similar shoes. So I did my engineering, then I was working in a technology firm, and then wanted to do MBA. At that point of time, I got into HEC Paris and did my MBA, then joined McKinsey in Frankfurt. And then next 6 years, I was in strategy consulting, working across around, I would say, 25 plus countries, five continents. I had a really amazing time in consulting. And then since 2014, I've been into coaching. So mainly my focus is career transition coaching, and that too, especially transitions of people into consulting and out of consulting is something that I really love doing. So the credentials are for you to see in on the screen. So we won't talk about it too much. Yes, we also have a recruitment firm, again, specifically targeted to the placements in consulting or placing ex-consultants in a corporate strategy or other roles where consultants are hired. Yeah. Um, so see, it's been 10 years and a lot of consulting hours. And over the years, not just, I've placed people in consulting, but uh, my philosophy has been that this is a tough career, no doubt about it. It's very rigorous, but it's extremely rewarding. Yeah. So when someone is trying to get into this career, it's not enough to look at it just from the perspective of cracking it. Yeah. So especially in a lot of geographies, there is this trend of let me crack the interview. Yeah. So we do it for IIT preparation, we do it for medical preparation, we do it for UPSC preparation. It's about let me just get over that. Yeah. Let me be that part of that 1%. Yeah. But in consulting, I have always believed that the preparation has to be a holistic preparation, right? So it should start from, first of all, addressing a question of career clarity. Yeah. Are you even sure that you want to get into consulting? Well, I've seen as a consultant when I used to manage teams, so a lot of people from Harvard and INSEAD and IIMs, I've seen them literally crying in the first project, thinking about, this is not the career that I wanted, or this is not what I wanted out of consulting. Yeah. Secondly, the other end. So you do a lot of rigorous preparation. You get into McKinsey, BCG, Bain, and all of them have up or out culture. So if you don't perform, you get kicked out. Yeah. So what's the point in putting it so much just to get out after 1 year or so, right? So the preparation should be in such a way that you are very clear about why you are getting into consulting, right? You are preparing not just for the interview, but also really inculcating those consulting skills, the problem solving, the top down communication, the logical bent of mind, right? So all these things I feel should be ingrained in a consulting preparation, and that's the mantra, that's the strategy that I have been doing, and that's why a very high success rate that you see over here. Yeah, and that's what we deliver on our platform called Being Consultant. Yeah, so we have a very short clip to introduce Being Consultant, and we'll get into the consulting domain and career discussion very quickly. Yeah, watch this clip. Hope you'll like it. Yeah. So thanks for watching. So what we have, as you can see, is a pretty holistic platform to really help you throughout your consulting career. Yeah. So with that, let's get into, first of all, what is consulting? Because I feel it's so casually used word, right? It's most abused word, consulting, right? So let's understand, when we say consulting career, what kind of consulting are we talking about? Okay. So see, remember, when we are talking about management consulting, we are talking about any task or any role that is done in this particular format. Okay, so when the client is having a problem, yeah, then they engage a team, they contract that for this particular problem solving, we are engaging you. Yeah. Then once you are on board, then you get into the, first of all, diagnosing the problem, right? Identifying what the problem is. You generate different options, different solutions for the client. Not just that, but you convince the client that, you know what, some of these problems, some of these solutions are apt for you, you should implement it. Yeah. And also in some cases you help implement some of those solution to the client, and then you disengage. Okay. So the role that gives you access to this entire loop, yeah, is the kind of consulting role that we are talking about. Why am I saying this? Is because a lot of time, yeah, people mistakenly uh, call some other stuff consulting as well. I wouldn't say it's a mistake because consulting is anyway the generic term. Yeah, so consulting is basically collaborative problem solving. If you think from a communication theory perspective, right? So that's why even in India, if you see the guy who has a real estate agent, right? He calls himself real estate consultant, right? So because of there's a collaborative problem solving over there as well, right? So what the problem solving or the role that we are referring to over here is something like this, which is management consulting. We are not talking about the technology companies when they hire people for any off-role kind of a task, yeah, and they call themselves consultants. We are not talking about that. Plus, a lot of people give advisory in a mentor role, so they are experts and they tell you this is to be done. Yeah, we are not talking about that consulting. Yeah, we are talking about management consulting, but which McKinsey, BCG, Bain, or some of the big fours do. So let's be very sure in terms of what's the kind of consulting we are talking about throughout the this particular presentation. Okay, so just to give you some examples, right? So these are some of my projects, in fact, right? So in 2008-9, an Italian bank had hired us after Lehman Brothers crisis to turn around the situation. They were really in bad shape. Most of the banks were in bad shape after Lehman Brothers, and we as a McKinsey, we turned around and saved the bank from bankruptcy. So that's one of the type of work, right? So turnaround, right? Secondly, I was fortunate to work with one of the prime minister of a European country as the country was trying to attract investments. So the issue was they were not able to attract investment from Asian and the fast growing economies, right? So that's the problem that we solved. Coming to some of the Indian projects, yeah, because some of these are European earlier. So Indian project is now one of the Navratna company. We helped them with growth strategy. So they were stagnant for a lot of years and they were not able to find out, how they can grow, right? So we helped them with growth strategy. The fourth one, a very famous guy, I purposely kept only half the photo, but you know who this guy is, right? So a broadcasting company struggling with profitability. So they hired us to identify how we can actually improve our profitability. So be it growth, investment, turnaround, profitability. Sometimes it can be M&A. Sometimes it can be pricing strategy, right? So all these kind of strategic work, yeah, we do in consulting as a profession. Okay, so if you think about any consulting company, right, generally you see, if you see the entire industry, yeah, you can cut it in multiple ways, but one of the most famous way of segmenting this industry is using these four segments. Okay, so pure play management consultants like McKinsey, BCG, Bain, we are talking about, which typically do vision, strategy, M&A kind of work, right? Then the big fours, which is KPMG, EY, PwC, their management consulting arms. Okay, I'm not talking about audit and tax work. We are talking about management consulting arm of big fours. Third is specialized players. So all the above players are metric structure. So they cater to all industries, all functions. But there are firms which only cater to specific industry or specific function. Yeah, these are the specialized firms. And fourth, which is the newest category in this, which is the technology consulting companies, right? Be it IBM, Accentures of the world. Okay, so I'll not go through the career pros and cons. If you want, you can just take a screenshot of this and read it afterwards. So every type of firm entering that, working into that has, of course, pros and cons. So we can sometimes go into the details, not for today. However, understand the structure. Okay, the in consulting industry is structured like this. Okay, now coming to the consulting companies, yeah. So generally, most of the consulting companies are metric structured. So if you see, let's say McKinsey or Kearney or let's say EY Parthenon, right? They will have teams called strategy team, org team, finance team. Yeah. At the same time, they will also have team which are catering to specific industries. So banking and financial services, communication, pharma, retail, etc. Right. So any consulting company that we are talking about has a metric structure, and of course, all this has implication on your career, right? So if you are coming from a particular industry perspective, then you know that there is an industry practice which aligns with you. Now, how you can use it, there are multiple ways. I'll not get into kind of details of this, but generally, let's say for example, if you are coming from high tech, yeah, and out of MBA you want to get into, let's say, McKinsey, yeah. So the practice that you should typically approach, or a partner or a principal that you should approach for networking, would be a high tech partner, because he's a person that who will be able to understand your value proposition, can refer you, right, and you can get into the interview process, right? However, having said that, if you see the typical consulting career path, yeah, do know that for the first 4 years, or till you become consultant, senior consultant, or till you become manager, most of the consulting companies encourage you to work on different industries and different functions, so that you become a very good problem solver. The basic consulting toolkit, the robust problem solving, very good communication, right? All the Excel, PPT, and all the tools, etc. Right? You should be able to master it. And generally, as we all know, you would learn more, yeah, if you are thrown in a difficult or unknown space, right? If you come from technology, or if you come from pharma pre-MBA, and post-MBA also you keep on doing pharma projects only, then slowly but surely your first principle thinking would not develop. Yeah, you will take decision based on domain knowledge and not structured thinking. Yeah, as a result of that, or because consulting knows that, first 4 years typically we are encouraged to work on different industries, different functions. Of course, slowly as you become manager, senior manager, partner, etc., you slowly have to specialize, right? As you start taking control of one project, then multiple project, then you own a client, then you own multiple client and own a practice. As you grow in consulting, slowly automatically you actually specialize. Yeah, but first few years you are supposed to be, or you are ideally should be, a generalist. Okay. Okay, cool. So that's about consulting. Some people I think had have kind of questions about the salary bands. So the salary bands are variable, but generally I think most of you would go to US colleges. So for in US, at an MBA level, you enter as a consultant, and the salary typically starts at around $200,000. Yeah. Okay. So why MBAs choose management consulting? So see, I feel that management consulting is one of the career path, or one of the career, right, which people can use the most flexibly. Yeah. So there are people who want to be in consulting for just couple of years. Yeah. Use it as an accelerator, and then go back to industry and really kind of do well. There are people who want to switch industries. So before MBA, for example, me, before MBA, I was in technology, right? And I wanted to change my industry, and I could do that using MBA, right? And of course, there are people who want to be consulting lifers. They want to grow, and they want to become partners, senior partners, etc. So they love advisory, and they would like to be or continue to be an advisor. Yeah, so consulting actually, and that's why consulting is called, the extended MBA, because even after joining consulting after MBA, your career options don't get reduced. In fact, they increase. Okay, but hardcore, if you really think from a work perspective, what consulting can give you, right? First of all, C-suite exposure, right? So that prime minister project that I was talking about, I was actually working with the prime minister team when I was 26-year-old. Yeah, which other career can give you that kind of an exposure? Right? So very early C-suite exposure you get. Yeah. Global career prospect, consulting is by default a global career. Yeah, you travel a lot, you because of the project trainings, etc. you get a huge global exposure, impactful work. There's no doubt about it. So generally, consultants are hired when the problems are big, problems are complex. As a result, when you are accomplished or when you are done with that problem, the impacts are quite huge. And of course, as we know, it's a very, very accelerated career growth path. I wouldn't, you don't quote me on this, but generally people say that, X number of years in consulting is equal to 2X number of years in industry. Yeah. That's how, the fast growth is if you are in consulting, right? So a lot of good, lot of good advantages of being in consulting. Of course, another thing which I haven't put it on the slide is money, right? So money is not bad. As we discussed, the earlier salary, the start of salary is 200,000, and it goes and grows pretty fast after that. So money is also not bad. Yeah. So if this so much is so good, right, in consulting, right, then let's talk about how to crack into it, because as we all know, it's difficult. Yeah, it's a competitive field. It's difficult to crack into it. So at this point of time where you are, right, I feel there are two things that you need to do. First of all, choosing the right college. Yeah, for which I'm sure Kritika and her team is already helping you, and I don't want to spend time on that. Yeah, but then the second thing is starting early and doing structured preparation. That's extremely important. Yeah, and this is see this is a little bit sad stat. Yeah, but that's a reality. That if you generally talk about people who are starting MBAs, and if you ask them how many of them want to get into consulting, you will see around 60 to 70% actually want to get into consulting. How many of them actually end up being in top consulting companies? Around 2%. Yeah, because it's a very competitive industry. It's a the interview process, the recruitment process is extremely challenging with only 1% selection rate. Yeah, just to give you a little bit idea of the interview process. Generally, if you think about it, it has around, let's say, 3 steps, right? So they start off by reviewing your CV and cover letter, your credentials, where they want to get convinced that you are that high performer. You actually have in the past set and achieved challenging goals. Okay, that's the first part. Was first screening criteria. Then lately, if you see last few years, consulting companies have also started taking some kind of tests. So the tests can be written cases, it can be psychometrics, it can be tests like GMAT. So various companies have various models, but generally, again, the intention is to screen candidates which are not that great or non-performing in the test. Once that is done, then the major part comes, which is the case interviews or interviews. Yeah, in which you are given, so around 3 to 4 fit interviews or case interviews happens. Yeah, and most of the interviews are up or out, in the sense, if you don't do well in the interview, you're out of the process. Okay, and typical interview, if you think about it, typical interview has two elements: fit interview and case interview. So it's a 1 hour interview in which the first 10 to 20 minutes are spent testing your fitment to consulting through asking some of the questions, asking questions from your CV, asking your motivation in terms of why do you want to get into consulting, why this particular firm. Yeah. Also, sometimes asking an instance. For example, some of the one of the consulting skill is convincing. Yeah. So I asked that trait in a with a kind of forming a question like, tell me an instance when you have demonstrated your convincing skills, when you convince someone senior. Yeah. So those kind of questions are asked to start in the start of the interview. And then comes the case part. Yeah. Where you are asked a business problem and you are supposed to solve it in 30 to 40 minutes. Okay, so for example, I've just given you some example. Your client is an automobile company, and for last 3 quarters, the profitability is going out. Yeah, I diagnose what's the problem, why. Or a pharma company interested in launching a drug, and they are asking you whether this market entry or product launch is a good idea. Yeah, so something like this, yeah, would come up in every interview, and like that, you need to crack, I would say, interviews minimum 4. Sometimes it can be more than 4 as well. Yeah. So that's the interview process. That's the rigor that is expected if you are facing this particular interview process. Hmm? And so generally, we talk about around 200 hours of preparation that is required, 50 plus cases. So the case that we are talking about, or a case practice, yeah, generally the thumb rule is if you haven't done more than 50 cases, then you shouldn't even apply or shouldn't even get into the interview process. Yeah, that's the kind of readiness that is required on the fit. Sorry, on the case. Also on the fit part, all the there are some questions that you really need to prepare in advance. You can't just say, the case is coming, the fit questions are coming to be from my own personality, from my own CV. Yeah, why to prepare? No, there is a way to answer every fit question. Yeah, and we need to be really, really prepared so that you demonstrate your structured communication. You demonstrate, your ability to market yourself. Yeah, so fit interview also needs a preparation, and of course CV. So the CV needs to be prepared in a consulting format. So there is a way in which consultants write CV, and we are also supposed to prepare like that. So fit preparation, case preparation, CV preparation, all these things are required. Yeah. And again, as I always feel that you need to start this preparation ASAP, early. Yeah. If you think about, because the first of all, the process is rigorous and it's so competitive these days, right? That if you leave it to, kind of too late, yeah, then you come under pressure. Some of these quotes from the clients I've already put in, right? So what happens generally is, right, if you start after joining an MBA or too late into the MBA, right? So you don't get time to prepare for the cases. You can't do enough cases, right? Because first couple of months you only take in adjusting to new cultures, new way of learning, etc. Right? And in 2 months you will realize quickly, the internship application for consulting will start, and those who haven't started anything, right, they'll literally they'll find themselves completely confused. Now I have no time to prepare CV, no time to prepare case. Okay, so that's the risk that you run. Also the case partner. So when we are talking about doing case practices, one is doing some cases with the coach to understand how it is done, but then a lot of these things you need to practice with your peers. And generally what happens once you join MBA, you will realize, when you join the consulting clubs and the consulting groups, etc., generally people would like to practice with somebody who is at least at the same level as them or better than them. So if you start late, then it's also a problem to find a practice partner, because others have, kind of gone ahead in the preparation. That's why it's very important to start early, at least do the foundation part. Yeah. So there's a methodology, there is a structure to this madness, and we prefer, or we really recommend taking this 5-step approach. Yeah. So we always think that we should start off with foundation, which is the three things that we are talking about. Really knowing the nitty-gritties of how to crack a case or solve a case problem. Okay. The fit interview, at least top 10 most frequently asked questions in the fit part you should prepare, and you should have your CB and CL ready. Okay. And then you open two separate parallel threads. Once you are ready with the foundation, then one side you start networking. You start meeting, the current consultant, alum from your MBAs who are already in consulting, trying to understand, how does it work? Can they help you get referral, etc., etc. Yeah. And parallelly, you start practicing with your peers. Yeah. A lot of people do a mistake of starting networking too early. Huh? So if you are networking, yeah, then don't expect that the networking call or networking meeting, right, would be just chit chat. In the networking meeting or networking call itself, sometimes some partners, some principals have a tendency to ask very tough questions. Just last week, one of my candidate from Netherlands, she's applying to Amsterdam office of BCG. She was having a networking coffee chat with a principal, and they spoke for 10 minutes. And after 10 minutes, suddenly the principal asked her that, now that we are in this cafe for 10 minutes, can you quickly estimate how much would be the monthly revenue of this cafe? So a guesstimate case in the networking conversation itself. So when you go to networking completely cold, then there's a risk of burning that particular contact. So I always say networking, you should start only when your foundation is done. So anyways, so recap, you do foundation, then parallelly networking and practice. And of course, when you start getting interview calls, then you will do the final polishing. Yeah, and I strongly believe that once you get an offer, the preparation doesn't start or shouldn't stop. You should also prepare to do well in first year of consulting, which is the fifth part that we are talking about. And of course, as the slide talks about, we have offerings, we have support for you throughout this process, right from getting your foundation done till ensuring that you are super successful in this journey. And one advantage that, guys, I think it doesn't I mean, it's not a rocket science, but you can do it yourself as well without any help. But of course, that means that 200 hours of preparation, and the success probability is low. But with some expert support, obviously, yeah, your investment of time literally becomes half, and the probability of getting into consulting increases. Yeah, so I highly recommend that you should consider this particular option. Okay, so basically this is all this conversation was about consulting, how to get into it, etc., etc., right? But as we can see, I think we are almost we have scratched the surface, right? Just probably tip of the iceberg. Yeah, so what I'm offering you, right, is that we can actually take this forward and we can get into a little bit detail discussion. And these are the discussion that we have, like almost every week I speak to a couple of MBA aspirants on this topic. So is consulting right career for me, right? What type of consulting roles or companies are best for me, right? Is my profile strong enough? Or to be honest, it's not just about profile being strong enough, but also how can we make the profile strong or strengthen the profile? What you should be doing before joining the MBA or during the MBA? All these questions at a personal level. Of course, it has to be a one-on-one conversation. Yeah, I'm happy to address. Yeah, and I'm thankful to Kritika for this opportunity to present our value proposition, our work in front of you. And hence, for the month of June, we are happy to extend a very special price for Aspire Hire clients. And if you want to have this conversation with me, coaching session with me, then just register yourself with Kritika, and yeah, I'm happy to give a solid discount. It's typically a $139 session, but I'm happy to offer you to Aspire our candidates for $69. Yeah, so that we can really take a concrete next step. Yeah, concrete path in terms of what you should be doing, whether consulting is for you, and to get into consulting, what are the concrete steps that you should be taking. Yeah, so Kritika, that's it from my side in terms of the presentation. But I'm happy to take questions if you have any.
Yeah, thanks so much, Gaurav. Like, so you literally like showed us like what it takes. And for a moment, I was just thinking about how deep of a planning is needed, in order to get in. And what we don't realize about how some of the people always keep uh, working towards this. So that was a really good eye opener for us. I had a couple questions, and there are a couple questions in the chat as well, which I will
Mhm.
relay at the
Sure.
moment. So this is from one of our participants here. They ask, to succeed in consulting, do you need to build a high level knowledge of all the industries? For example, I've been working in tech and have no understanding of any other industry. How would I help, let's say, a pharma company with growth strategy?
Okay, that's a very good question. And see, first of all, understand that consulting is a generalist profession. Okay. I also came from technology industry because, in fact, I was a software engineer with Infosys. Yeah. And what do you think, right? The 16 months of MBA, and I became eligible to advise Prime Minister and pharma companies and telecom companies. See, what you need to understand is what is consultant's value proposition? Consultant value proposition is problem solving. Okay, the client generally, yeah, at a CXO level, at least my experience was at that point of time, clients are almost double your age. Yeah. And 20, 30 years of knowledge of their industry. We are not going to tell them something from how that operation needs to be done differently, because they know the industry knowledge much better than you. But what you can tell them, right, is basically how they are missing some of the points. Remember that when you are close to the fire, it's very difficult to find out, kind of mistakes in your own work because you are so much into it. Consultants are fundamentally problem solvers. They can see the picture from 30,000 feet view, right? They can put those problem elements together in an extremely structured fashion and surface insights. Okay, so that is what consultants do. One. Second is process. Yeah, consulting is also a process. Yeah, so you add that analytical rigor, you add that competitive intelligence, you add that internal capability audit, all these things you bring it together, yeah, so that the be it growth strategy, be it the M&A decision, investment decisions, yeah, can be taken by the client in a in a much more data backed and logical manner, right? So that is what you need to master. You don't need to be domain expert on in all the industry. When you are supposed to be domain expert, at that point of time you would have anyways done specialization. So once you become manager, senior manager, then you are supposed to get more and more domain knowledge and ensure that you are not just engaging client on problem solving, but also some of the domain expertise. Okay, but that is something which is a natural process. To again answer your question, it's not that you need to be a domain expert to start in consulting. Absolutely not.
Yeah, that clarifies a lot of things. See, I have a couple questions here. See, especially consulting jobs had received a lot of flack in the last, I would say, 1 year, no? Especially with McKinsey,
Yeah.
BCG laying off so many people and all that. Uh, you having been in the space for a long time, what is your take on that?
Sure. So see, consulting ultimately is an advisory business, yeah, and advisory business is a can in a balance sheet language or financial language, we call it discretionary expense. Okay, so basically, whenever there is an upturn, yeah, we are the first one to get hired, but whenever there is a downturn, we are the first one to get fired. Okay, because I mean, under cost cutting. So this is cyclical. This is always going to happen, right? But the best performers always stay on. And of course, if something negative happens in terms of because of the downturn, then there is always a next upturn. Okay, so this is the nature of the industry. Okay, and yeah, I mean, we are in a social media uh, era, right? So even one thing happens, right, it gets blown out of the proportion. No doubt that last 1 year or so, consulting as an industry is kind of in a low patch. However, it picks it up, and we are now almost 2007 onwards have been involved in consulting industry in some way or the other, and I have seen 2, 3 downturns, but it always bounces back.
I think that's good to hear for people who will be joining in the next year. I mean, applying now and then joining in the next year. See, one of the things that we tell people, especially when we work with them, is to pay keen attention to the employment statistics of the schools and also the facilities that they tell
Absolutely.
you about the various different career outcomes, right, and how the school is helping them. Can you also talk about a little bit about how the business school would also help someone prep for consulting?
So there are clearly consulting role driven business schools, and there are certain companies or certain B schools which are not as much. Yeah. So for example, it's an open secret that in Europe, INSEAD is the school that sends most number of people to consulting. If you see a percentage of the batch, or IESC. Similarly, in the US, you will generally see people from, let's say, Harvard or Stanford. Yeah.
Rather than, yeah.
much more than, let's say, Kellogg's, which is considered marketing, right? Similarly, in Europe, if you see London Business School, then generally you associate that with finance role. HEC, you associate that with industry roles. Yeah. So there is some kind of very gross level, you can say, they have emerged as top consulting schools. But I came from HEC and I got into consulting, and from our batch, 12 people got into it. So it's not that you can't get through some other school into consulting one. However, there is support system is there almost in all the major business schools. Yeah, so all of them have consulting clubs, which is a student-driven body. So all the students which are consulting aspirants, yeah, they come together. They have a lot of resources that they collect. They practice with each other. They sometimes call people like me to take sessions. That's one. Secondly, most of the career development departments in these schools, they also have dedicated managers, especially for investment banking and management consulting. Yeah, so that also sometimes showcases their seriousness about these industries and these careers, right? So and at a college level as well, they have tie-ups with different platforms to help you out. They A lot of career departments also help you in kind of arrange certain drives. So I remember when I was at HEC, we had visited Paris office of BCG. We had visited Paris office of Kearney, right? So those kind of industry visits, etc. That also happens through the colleges. Yeah, but don't forget, uh, especially in international MBAs, right? Um, you need to take the ownership. Yeah, especially in India, South Korea, and Japan. I think there are three countries where I have seen that um, we have a culture of spoon feeding the job or having job on the platter. We have the placement day and placement week culture. But now that you are going abroad, you should know that most of the universities, the placements are not like that. Yeah. So you need to network, be it consulting or be it for industry as well. You need to go out, you need to do network, you need to understand what is good for me, right? And generate some of these interviews. And that is good as well, because from a composition perspective, though now with ISB in India, things are changing. But generally, if you see in Indian MBAs, they were people who had zero experience or only 1 year of experience. Within India, we believe education after education after education. So engineering, then direct MBA. So for them, it was okay. But in international MBA, generally you have people with 4, 5, and more years of experience. And as a result, they also have a say. They also want to check whether this career is for them. I, very loosely, I give example of arranged marriage and love marriage. Yeah, so don't get offended. But generally, in international uh, MBAs, it is more of a love marriage kind of a setting, and in Indian MBAs, it is arranged marriage. Yeah, so that's a difference that you should also keep in mind.
Well, that was a new analogy, I should say, an interesting analogy. Yeah. So, so Gaurav, from what I'm hearing you say, it's giving me this insight that while it is definitely possible for someone to use all the resources and everything available, maybe what they may not have in business school is time, right? And that's where like starting early and preparing ahead of time for this consulting industry truly sets you up for success.
Yeah, and one thing I probably forgot to tell you guys, that if you ask any consulting coach, they will tell you this, that the best way of getting into consulting is through internship, the easiest way. Because internship interviews are much easier. So rather than 4 interviews, they generally have around 2 interviews and you get internship. The level of case also is a little bit easier because they know your MBA is not yet over. So it's not that you have been taught all the corporate finance and all that stuff, right? And internship to placement offer conversion in IB and consulting is very high, 70-80%. So if you do very good job in internship, then you secure the consulting offers without having to then apply for a full-time role, um, when you are close to the MBA end and you are already tensed and all the financial pressure and all that stuff. So it's not a bad idea to already secure it through internship. Now internships come like very quickly, yeah. And generally, when people join MBA and in 2 3 months time, when the this winds of case cracking preparation etc. start, yeah. If you haven't started already, then you kind of lag behind. That's the
Got
reason
it. That makes
preparing early. And I feel, anyways, case interview now preparation is it's a no regret move, even if you don't end up joining consulting, because
Mhm.
case interview preparation are there for private equity interviews. There are at least one case will happen in investment banking, a leadership development program, Unilever, Procter and Gamble, Visa, DHL, yeah, all the leadership development program will have casing. Apple introduced casing 3 years back, so Apple process has two cases. Google interview has it. Tesla interview has it. So case interview as a skill, anyways, you need to develop. Yeah. So
Mm.
why not start early is what I feel. And while you are doing the casing, and what I have seen in my clients at least is, because they grasp some of the basic business concepts even before starting the MBA, their MBA performance also then improves. Yeah.
Got it. Excellent. So, as we are, probably coming to the close of the session, what would be your parting advice to somebody, who's preparing for both MBA, like applications, which also takes a lot of time, as well as this, preparing for consulting?
So I think the advice is already been given, but couple of things. One is career clarity is extremely important, right? So what you want to do, right? Don't kind of blindly go for something. Yeah, you need to really take your data back and inform decisions, right, on the career. And if you want to get into consulting, then as that one of the slides suggested, yeah, focus on the consulting colleges, MBA schools, right, and start preparing as early as you can. Okay.
Right. Thank you so much, Gaurav, for this wonderful session where we got a lot of clarity into what it takes to get into consulting and to stay there, actually, and work on some interesting projects. So, for those of you who are participating, we have put a form here, and you can just sign up on it. And we'll also be sharing this form along with the recording in your email later, so that you can sign up for Gaurav's session and take advantage of his very generous offer of one-on-one consultation to check if your profile is going to be suited for a consulting job. And we present these sessions in order to give you more clarity about the most sought after post MBA careers. So until we see you next time, thank you so much to everybody for joining. And thanks again, Gaurav, for this wonderful session.
Thanks, Kritika. Thanks, everyone. Have a nice weekend.